these four, sometimes devotees accept them when the Lord offers them. But Sayujya or Ekatwa, Sayujya is the same thing as Ekatwa. They are considered hellish because the soul merges into the Brahmanjyoti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when the soul merges into the Brahmanjyoti, the soul is considered annihilated because the soul cannot engage in devotional service. So in that state of liberation, the soul deprives of himself of devotional service. And so it is described actually in the Ishopanishad as Atmahana. Atmahana means killer of the soul, even though the soul cannot be killed. But when the soul cannot engage in the service of the Supreme, then it is considered dead. It's considered inactive. The soul is supposed to be blissfully engaged in Krishna's service. But when the soul merges into the Sayujya Mukti, into the Brahman Jyoti, he becomes inactive. He becomes dormant. He cannot engage in devotional service. So therefore, the devotees of the Lord, the pure devotees, they do not entertain such devotional service. Madguna Shruti Matrena Mai Salva Guhasaye Mano Gatir Avichena Yata Gangabaso Imbudao Lakshana Bhakti Yoga Sia Yunasya Hi Udahiritam Ahaituki Avya Vahita Ya Bhakti Purushottame. As I already mentioned, the devotee wants his love to flow towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotee wants to engage in practical service. The devotee wants to experience loving relationship with the Lord, active loving relationships, not dormant relationships. So the impersonalists, the jnanis, who are after this sayujya or ekantwa, liberation, they are actually described as killers of the soul. So it says here, a pure devotee abhors ekatwa. A pure devotee does not desire ekatwa. Ekatwa means oneness with the Supreme Lord. It means merging into the Supreme Lord, are desired by the impersonalists, the mental speculators, and the meditators. To become one with the Supreme Lord is beyond the dream of a pure devotee. Sometimes he may accept promotion to the Vaikuntha planets to serve the Lord there, and he will never accept merging into the Brahman effulgence, which he considers worse than hellish. Such ekatwa, or merging into the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, is called kaivalya. But the happiness derived from kaivalya is considered by the pure devotees to be hellish. So in other words, devotional service means active relationship with the Supreme Lord. We are talking about the characteristics of devotional service. We're talking about the cultivation of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice. We're talking about bhava bhakti, ecstasy. We're talking about prema bhakti, mature love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the face of these, ekatwa or sanyujya, merging into the effulgence of the Lord, is condemned. So a pure devotee does not consider this sanyujya as anything in the service of the Lord. So devotional service means active service. And by such active service, then what happens? The 6 characteristics of your devotional service develop. So as you can see on the screen, these are the 6 characteristics of your devotional service. Kleshagni, Subhada, Moksha, Laguta Krita, Sudulabha, Sadrananda Visheshatma, and Sri Krishna Karshani. Kleshagni means relief from material distress. Everyone in the material world is suffering to a lesser degree or greater degree. Once we have a material body, we have to suffer. Actually, material body means suffering. Anybody who has a material body, he must suffer. You can't escape it. And there are different kinds of suffering. Hunger brings suffering. Thirst brings suffering. Frustrations bring suffering. Disease brings suffering. So there are many, many forms of suffering, which are classified as adidivic, adhyatmic, and adibautic. Adidivic are suffering created by supernatural forces, the demigods. Adidivic, they're beyond our control. Adhyatmic pleasure or suffering is caused by our mind and body. And then we have adibautic. Adibautic pleasure is caused by other living entities. So we are in the midst of these 3 types of miseries. Miseries arising from the demigods, natural disturbances, like too much heat, too much cold, tornado, volcano, and so on. Drought, famine, all these are caused by adidivic forces beyond our control. Then we have adhyatmic. Suffering comes from our own minds and from our own bodies. And everybody goes through it. Sometimes our mind gives us a lot of trouble. A man is thinking like this and thinking like that, thinking that everybody is against him, thinking that everybody is criticizing him, everybody is condemning him. And he goes into such a pain. And then, of course, the body becomes sick. The body suffers from hunger. The body suffers from thirst. The body suffers from all kinds of frustrations. These are all the miseries that affect us in this world. And then other living entities like mosquitoes, like snakes, scorpions, human beings, animals. So actually, material existence means we are surrounded by miseries. And so a devotee understands the situation in the material world. The non-devotees, they have no idea. They think If I make some money, I'll be happy. I can solve my problems. If I have some sex partner, I'm happy. I can solve my problems. If I have some kingdom, I can solve my problems. But people have all these things, but they're still suffering. The richest men are suffering. The men with so many sex partners, they are suffering. The men with so much strength and popularity and fame, they are suffering. Nobody escapes from these three types of sufferings. So therefore, Klekshagni is a relief. When one comes to the platform of Klekshagni, he becomes relieved from all these material distresses. So that is one characteristic of pure devotional service. As soon as we come to the platform of pure devotional service, all these sufferings, they become insignificant. Why? Because, as we shall see, Subhada means pure devotional brings auspiciousness. It brings auspiciousness. Then we have Moksha Laguta Krita. It brings so much happiness that happiness experience in liberation, like merging into the effulgence of the Lord, Sanyujya Mukti, becomes insignificant. And then we have Sudulabha. Sudulabha means it's very rare to practice pure devotional service. It's a very rare opportunity. It's so rare that anyone who has it, anyone who is on that platform, he is a superhuman. People are trying to become superhuman in a material way, but they cannot avoid suffering. But if you become a superhuman in devotional service, then you achieve a very rare position. Then we have Sadrananda, Visheshet Ma. It brings so much transcendental pleasure. Once one is in a position of pure devotional service, one is linked to the ocean of pleasure. Krishna is the ocean of pleasure. So pure devotional service links us to that ocean of pleasure. And so one experiences such pleasure, transcendental pleasure, called Sadra Ananda Visheshatma. And devotional service is so powerful that it also attracts Krishna. So it said here, Krishna Karshani. Krishna Karshani means that devotional service is so powerful that devotional service attracts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why the Lord came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord wants to experience devotional service. The Lord is attracted to devotional service. The Lord is wondering how the devotees are relishing devotional service. So he has to come as a devotee in order to taste devotional service. So these are the 6 characteristics, the 6 manifestations of pure devotional service. This is what one experiences. This is what is awaiting us as we give up the material world and increase our love for Krishna. These are the gifts we receive from Krishna. These gifts are unknown to the world. even to the ordinary religionist. People are practicing religious, activities. They consider themselves very, very religious. But this knowledge of the characteristics of pure devotional service is not known. It's not known to the Gyanis. It's not known to the yogis. It's not known to the karmis. It's not known to the ordinary religious practitioners. They are not known. But for a devotee who has access to this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this ocean of the mellows that one has with the Supreme Lord, one can have access to these wonderful characteristics of devotional service. We have to memorize these, just as we have to memorize the 4 waves of the Purva Vibhaga. We must memorize those 4 waves. Samanya Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. Actually, Samanya Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. We should remember these 4. Samanya Bhakti, characteristics of Bhakti; Sadhana Bhakti, devotional service in practice; Bhava Bhakti, devotional service in ecstasy; and Prema Bhakti, mature devotional service. We should remember these, their Sanskrit and their English counterparts. Similarly, we should remember these 6 characteristics and their meanings. It is one of the popular questions that is often asked by examiners. Name the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, both in Sanskrit and in English. So students must know these 6 characteristics very well, both in English and Sanskrit. So now we go into the individuals. Klesha. Klesha means relief from all distress. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the distresses from sinful activities are due both to the sins themselves and to the sins committed in our past lives. Generally, one commits sinful activities due to ignorance. But ignorance is no excuse for evading the reaction, sinful activities. Sinful activities are of 2 kinds, those which are mature and those which are not mature. The sinful activities from which we are suffering at the present moment are called mature. The many sinful activities stored within us from which we have not yet suffered are considered immature. So, as I mentioned, every living entity is suffering. There are different kinds of suffering or different kinds of sinful reactions. There are some sinful reactions that are mature. Some sinful reactions we have performed in a previous life, they are mature in this life. How do we know? The type of body we have is due to the reactions. The type of family, the type of country, the type of tribe, the type of sickness, the type of mind, intelligence, whatever we have in this body is due to reactions from the previous life. So we're already suffering the reactions of previous activities. Now, again, in this life, we are performing so many sinful activities. Those ones, they have not yet matured. and they will mature and catch up with us. So all of this knowledge is not known. People are not even aware that whatever we perform, whatever we do, their reactions will catch up with us. If people know this, they would think twice before they perform any activity. The people are so ignorant. They think if they do horrible things and nobody sees them, if they are not caught by the law enforcing agencies, they are free. No, they are not free, because there are witnesses. According to the Vedas, there are 11 witnesses, and you can't escape them. The day is one witness. The night is one witness. The sun is one witness. The moon is one witness. The super soul is one witness. Earth is one witness. The sages, one witness. The demigods, one witness. You can't escape all these witnesses. You cannot. You cannot escape. So whatever activities we are performing, we might think nobody is seeing, but the Lord has put in place 11 witnesses. The directions, 8 directions, they are witnesses. So therefore, having the opportunity to learn this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is very enlivening. We can understand why we should behave properly. Because if we don't behave properly, again, another body, another life. That is what is going on. But people have no clue. People have no idea what is going on. They're so ignorant. And they claim they have knowledge. They claim they know. But what do they know? They don't even know that they're suffering because of their sinful reactions. John the Baptist was beheaded. It's mentioned in the Bible. John the Baptist was beheaded. When was he beheaded? Because in a previous life, he had killed 400 Baal worshippers. He had killed 400 people. So he has to take birth 400 times so that he can also pay that karma. So in his next life, Pontius Pilate's wife was not a chaste woman. She was relating to other men in a very uncalled for manner. And John the Baptist criticized her. And so the queen, Pontius Pilate's wife, was unhappy with John the Baptist. So when their daughter went to ask the mother for a birthday gift, the queen told the daughter, go to your father and ask for the head of John the Baptist. At that time, John the Baptist was imprisoned because he had criticized the queen. So this little girl doesn't know what it means to ask for the head of John the Baptist. He ran to the father and said, Daddy, today is my birthday and I want a special gift. And the father said, what do you want? He said, I want the head of John the Baptist. So immediately the father ordered that they should cut the head of John the Baptist. So John the Baptist was beheaded and the head was brought on the plate and given to this little girl. The little girl took it and ran again and gave it to his mother. So just see how reactions work. This is called matured karma. So there are certain reactions that we are paying for right now. They are mature. And we are still performing sinful activities, and the results will come later. They are not mature yet. They will mature, they will come later. So an intelligent person will not create a situation whereby you suffer birth after birth. So the nectar of devotion is giving us such information that can help us to refrain from giving room for sinful reactions, to keep following us life after life. The nectar of devotion gives us this information so that we can behave properly, so that we can act properly. And the only way to act properly is to do everything for Krishna's pleasure. That is why the Mangala Charan of the nectar of devotion is the mantra the mantra that we learn from the nectar of devotion is devotional service is performed solely for Krishna's pleasure. Devotional service is performed solely for Krishna's pleasure. Anyambela shunyam, that anyambela sita sunyam, jnana karmanadi anavritam, anukuliena krishnanum sulanam bhakti uttamam. This verse underscores the importance of devotional service. That one should be free from material desires for sense gratification. Anyam belashita sunyam. One should be free from material desires for sense gratification. One should be free from philosophical speculations. Jnana karmanadi anavritam. One should be free from mental speculations, philosophical speculations. One should also be free from fruitive activities, because fruitive activities will result in karmic reactions. And then, anukulina, activities should only be performed for Krishna's pleasure. Anukulina Krishnanu Shranam Bhakti Uttamam. Activities should only be performed which are favorable for Krishna's pleasure. This is the definition of pure devotional service. This is the goal of all of our activities we are performing. And as soon as we are able to reach this platform, then one is free from all types of distresses. One becomes elevated and is free from all kinds of distresses. So suffering is caused by ignorance, avidya. The living entity is suffering from avidya. In fact, it is mentioned in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam how in the beginning, Lord Brahma had to create 5 sheets of ignorance, 5 times of ignorance. Tamisram, under Tamisram, Tamas, Moha, and Mahamoha. These are the 5 layers of ignorance that Brahma created from his shadow to serve as covering for the soul coming into material existence. For a living entity to experience material existence, he must forget Krishna, he must forget the Supreme Lord, he must forget his own identity. And so to facilitate this forgetfulness, Lord Brahma created the 5 types of ignorance. Tamisram, under Tamisram, Tamas, Moha, and Mahamoha. So anyone and everyone in the material world inherits these 5 types of ignorance. And so everyone is suffering because of this ignorance. Ignorance gives rise to material desires, which is called bijam. Because we don't know our actual identity and we don't know the identity of the Supreme Lord, so we nourish material desires. We have material plans, big material plans. And that is how the world goes. If you don't have these big material plans and material desires, then you are left behind. You are considered a failure in life. So therefore, everyone is competing in the rat race. Material existence is compared to a rat race. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to be in front. Everybody wants to be the champion. That is material existence. But there are heavy reactions that await us due to this ignorance. We are covered by ignorance. We don't know who we are. We don't know who the Supreme Lord is. We don't know our relationship with the Supreme Lord. We are just acting out of ignorance, and the reactions are following us wherever we go. So, because of ignorance, we have so many material desires, and because of material desires, we engage in sinful activities, and because of sinful activities, we are suffering. This is the progress of suffering. It comes from desire. Desire is due to ignorance. So therefore, by studying the nectar of devotion, we can understand the cause of pain. We can understand the cause of suffering. And then we will gradually detach ourselves from this cause of suffering, from ignorance. It doesn't mean that a devotee doesn't work hard. No, a devotee works hard, but he offers the results to Krishna. That is why it is said, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shlanam Bhakti Uttamam. Activities must be performed, but they should only be intended for the pleasure of Krishna. Whatever we are doing, we have the right to do it, but we should have a goal of doing it. Why are we doing it? So that we can please Krishna, we can please Guru, we can please the Vaishnavas. That should be our aim. Then there is no reaction. There is vikarma, forbidden activities. There is karma, prescribed activities, and there is akama, activities that are free from reactions. Bhagavad Gita discusses these types of karma. Vikarma, forbidden activities, one should not do those things because you suffer. Then there is karma, prescribed duties. If one performs prescribed duties, but the result should be offered to Krishna, then one becomes free from karma. That is called akarma. So a devotee acts, a devotee performs activities, but he offers the results to Krishna, and therefore he doesn't suffer any karmic reaction. He doesn't carry any karma on his head because he's offering everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is knowledge. The rest of the world is wallowing in ignorance because they don't know that we are completely in darkness. We are acting in darkness without relationship, without relating to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are acting in darkness. And the result of such actions is suffering. So these are the stages of sinful action. Once we perform an action, it's called papam. Then there are two stages. Aparabdha, that is unmanifested reaction. And we have parabdha, manifested reaction. That means the aparabdha are the unmatured sins. The reactions to our sins are not yet mature. They are waiting to be mature. But the parabdha, they are mature, and we are already suffering the results of parabdha. Whatever difficulties, whatever pains, whatever challenges, it means these are the manifestations of prarabdha. The aparabdha, they are in the seed form. They are waiting to mature. Just like a fruit. If the fruit is not mature, it does not fall from the tree. It's not ready for eating. But as soon as the fruit matures, it ripens, then it falls down to be eaten. So similarly, our sinful reactions, when they mature, they manifest for us to suffer. If they are not mature, they remain in a dormant state, but they will come up. So a devotee, in order to avoid these aprarabdha and prarabdha, which are the different stages of sinful reactions, one offers everything in the service of the Lord. And that is the importance of devotional service. Anyone who is engaged in devotional service becomes free from prarabdha and prarabdha because he is offering everything to Krishna. Krishna is apapavidam. In your Ishopanishad, Krishna is describing Ishopanishad verse 8. It says Krishna is described as a papavidam. It's an antiseptic. He can absorb any quantity of dirt and he is never contaminated. Just like the sun. The sun is drying up so many dirty things, dirty ponds, dirty water, urine, stool. The sun dries them up, but the sun never gets contaminated. And the sun is just a very small fraction of the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many millions of universes, and in each universe, there is a sun. And according to the size of the universe, the suns are also of the same different sizes. It is said that the sun is 14 times the size of the planet, the size of the universe. Our planet is 14 times the size of the sun. So the bigger the universe, the bigger the sun. And there are millions of these suns, but they still constitute a fraction of the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, Krishna is capable of drying up all sinful reactions. Krishna is capable of absorbing all sinful reactions, and he is never affected by those sinful reactions. And that is why it is better to surrender to Krishna. It's better to act for Krishna's pleasure. Then Krishna can take away the reactions. So it said there are 4 kinds of effects due to sinful activities. It is stated in the Padma Purana that there are 4 kinds of effects due to sinful activities, which are listed as follows. 1, the effect which is not yet fructified. The effect which is lying as seed. The effect which is already mature. And the effect which is at the maturing stage is going to manifest very soon. So these are the stages of the manifestation of the effects of sinful life, the reactions of sinful life. Once you perform the sin, it takes the form of an unfructified seed. Then it becomes a mature seed. Then it becomes almost a mature reaction. And then the reaction becomes fully mature and it manifests. So whatever suffering, whatever difficulty we are going through, it means it has taken time for the reactions to come, coming through these stages. So devotional service, one who is engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, all these can be vanquished. These 4 effects become immediately vanquished for those who surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and become engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. So we are all given the same opportunity, same chance to get freed from the volumes and volumes of sinful reactions that are waiting for us by engaging in Krishna consciousness. So in this verse, Krishna speaks to Uddhava. Uddhava is a very great devotee of the Lord. Uddhava has a lot of interactions with Krishna. Just as Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna also spoke a lot of instructions to Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's called the Uddhava Gita. Just as when the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, that was spoken to Arjuna by Krishna, Krishna also spoke. Krishna spoke to the gopis, that is called the Gopi Gita or Gopi Gita. Krishna also spoke to Uddhava, that is called Uddhava Gita. Krishna also spoke to the sages in Kurukshetra. So in that discussion between Krishna and Uddhava, this comes up. Yatatnisu smridarichi karoti idamsi basmasat tatamat vishaya bhaktir Uddhava naimsi Krishna saha. My dear Uddhava, just as a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly, devotion unto you, devotion unto me, completely burns to ashes, sins committed by my devotees. You can find this in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, verse 19. So the whole of 14th chapter and more, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, the whole of that section, Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. Somebody like to read this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. I think somebody's hand is up. Gora Shakti Prabhu, your hand is up. You have a question before we proceed?
Yes, yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought about chapter verse 66 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
And then it is said that we just surrender to Krishna, and then our is going to deliver us from our sinful reactions.
Yes.
Now, I've just seen also the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, 14, chapter 14, verse 19. It corroborates the same thing. So the question I would like to ask is that these sinful reactions, are we, as devotees, concerned by them again, since we have already surrendered to Krishna? That's my question.
Yeah, the question, thank you for your question. You see, when we talk of surrendering to Krishna, it's a very deep subject matter. It doesn't mean because we live in the temple, we are surrendered. It doesn't mean because we are wearing neck beads, we are wearing dhoti or sari, we are surrendered. It doesn't even mean that because we have taken initiation, we are surrendered. Surrendering is a very, very deep subject matter. Actually, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has talked about the, what do you call it, the angas of surrender. Angas means the branches of surrender. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also talks about them in the what do they call it? The Chaitanya Charitamrita. They are called the 6 divisions of surrender. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur talked about them in his Sharanagati. He has written so many songs called Sharanagati. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about them. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam, Rakshishya Titi Vishaso, Goptritve Varanam Tata, Atma Nishikpa Karpanye, Sarvida Sharanagati. Say the 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender unto the Lord, and complete humility. These are the 6 angles or the 6 divisions of surrender. So when we talk of surrender, all these must be present. One should accept things that are favorable for a discharge of devotional service, and one must reject things that are not favorable for the discharge of devotional service. One must be convinced that Krishna will give protection. That means you depend totally on Krishna. You don't depend on your strength. You don't depend on your mind. You don't depend on your wealth. You don't depend on your family. You don't depend on anyone. You totally depend on Krishna for everything. Even the case of Draupadi. I think you might have heard the story of Draupadi when Draupadi was to be derobed by the Kauravas. The Pandavas had lost their wife through gambling. And so Duryodhana and Karna, they dragged Draupadi because he has been lost. He was no more the wife of the Pandavas. So they dragged her to the court and they wanted to see her nakedness, which is abominable. Actually, sometimes I say that the Kauravas, they actually introduced pornography because they wanted to see the nakedness of Draupadi, somebody's wife. So first, Draupadi was thinking, my 5 powerful husbands, Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev, they would save me from this disgrace. But they had already gambled her away. They have no authority. So when she realized that the 5 husbands could not save her, she then depended on her own strength. She was fighting with Dushashan, very powerful Kshatriya, who was trying to derobe her. But then she realized that as a woman, she did not have the strength to fight such a strong military general. Then what did she do? Because she was trying to fight, but she realized that she didn't have the strength. So she raised one hand and still used the other hand trying to hold the sari so that she cannot be naked. She could not be made naked. So she raised one hand and she was calling Krishna, hey Govinda, hey Krishna. But Krishna did not respond until when she now realized that she doesn't have the strength, she doesn't have the ability to fight such powerful warriors. So she raised both hands and she cried out, hey Govinda, hey Krishna. And at that moment, Krishna incarnated as Sari avatar. And Dusashan, who was a very powerful warrior, she tried to naked this woman, but the sari had no end. He piled up a huge amount of sari, but the sari had no end. He was tired, he was panting, he was sweating. The sari had no end. He realized that this is not an ordinary sari. So he gave up the desire to naked Draupadi. But the point here is, Draupadi was depending on her 5 powerful husbands. It failed. She then depended on her own strength. It failed. She depended half on Krishna, half on her strength. It failed. And now she raised both hands and she surrendered to Krishna. Krishna, do whatever you want with me. at that time, Krishna intervened. So surrender is not just by saying, it's by acting. And Krishna is within our hearts as super soul. Sarvasya chaham hirideshane vishto mata smriti gyanam apohanam cha. Krishna is sitting in our hearts. He sees everything. He gives us the opportunity to remember. He gives us knowledge. He also makes us to forget. He's sitting there as a super soul. So therefore, if we say we are surrendered, Krishna knows the degree to which we have surrendered. It's not just by saying you surrender. To surrender means to do what Krishna wants. So if we really surrender, Krishna will take away all the reactions of our sins. But if we are not surrendered, we are just offering words to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, I'm your devotee. But we are not surrendered to Krishna. We are still doing our own things. We should not expect Krishna to take away all the reactions from us. And that's what Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajami aham. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Krishna cannot be cheated. To the degree that you surrender to Krishna, to that degree, Krishna will reciprocate with you. So surrender is a very, very deep principle. As I mentioned to you, it has 6 divisions. So these 6 divisions, we must master them, and then we have to see whether we have applied all these 6 divisions in our lives, accepting those things that are favorable for devotional service, rejecting those things that are not favorable for devotional service, having the conviction that Krishna will give us protection, accepting Krishna as our master, our guidance, full self-surrender, and then humility, total humility in all circumstances. If you have all these qualities, then it is considered that you are surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna will reciprocate with you to that degree that you have surrendered unto him. So even though Krishna has made the statement that if you surrender, abandon, that's why you say abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, I will protect you from your reactions, sinful reactions. Do not fear. So that is the promise Krishna has given. But whether we fulfill that promise, whether we actually act according to what Krishna wants, or we still do our own things. And so the choice is on us. We have to decide how we want to surrender to Krishna. Krishna does not force anybody. But if you surrender to him voluntarily, Krishna will reciprocate with you fully. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Mataji, you can read this slide. I think one of the Matajis wanted to read this slide. Is that Janmastami Mataji or Ananga Mohini Mataji? Which of you wanted to read?
Yes, Maharaj, I was one.
Okay, go ahead and read.
Okay.
Are you seeing the slide?
Nullifies sinful deeds. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Devotional service eradicates sinful reacts and most of ignorance. Therefore, it is the only efficient way to achieve permanent relief from all suffering.
Yeah, devotional service eradicates sinful reactions, nullifies sinful desires, counteracts material proclivities, and most importantly, uproots ignorance. Therefore, it is the only efficient way to achieve permanent relief from all suffering. So the bottom line is suffering is coming from sinful reactions. And until we uproot ignorance from the core of our hearts, we will continue to engage in activities that will bring suffering. So here it says that devotional service eradicates sinful reactions, it nullifies sinful desires, it counteracts material proclivities, and most importantly, uproots ignorance. So that is the power of devotional service. Anyone who is taken to the path of bhakti and is seriously performing devotional service, it is guaranteed that one can uproot this ignorance. In fact, Parikshit Maharaj talked about this in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was talking about atonement. In some religious organizations, every Saturday they go to confess their sins to the priest, and the priest recommends certain practices, maybe a number of rosaries they have to say to counteract the sins. And that qualifies them to take Holy Communion on Sunday. But from Monday, again, they commit the same sins again. So Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, now what is the use of atonement? You perform certain activities to atone for your sins, then you go back to perform the same sins again. What is the use? What is the intelligence? He actually compares it to the bathing of an elephant. It's called Kunjara Socham. Kunjara Socham. Kunjara means elephant. Socham means bathing. The elephant takes a very good bath when he enters a body of water. But as soon as he comes out of the water, he would use his trunk to put sand and dust all over his body. So what is the use of bathing? If you take a nice bath, and the next moment you're throwing sand and dust over your body, in the first place, you don't need to bath. So it is said, if one goes to confess his sins, and then he performs some atonement for the sins, just to take Holy Communion on Sunday, and then from Monday to Friday, again, he begins to commit the same sins. This is not correct. One cannot make advancement by this lifestyle. And so Parikshit Maharaj compares such a person to the elephant bath. And so devotional service permanently removes the root of sinful desires. Devotional service gives knowledge. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. Gyanachayat ahai to come. That by engaging in devotional service, one cultivates causeless knowledge and detachment. So devotional service gives us knowledge, and devotional service gives us detachment. And so by such knowledge and detachment, one becomes free from the dangers of ignorance, the influence of ignorance, which is responsible for sinful activities. So unless one is free from ignorance, one will continue to perform sinful activities. And that is the situation with many, many religious practitioners. They go to church, they go to the mosque, they go to the synagogue, they go to the temple every Sunday or Saturday or Friday to pray. But as soon as they leave the premises of the temple, of the synagogue, of the church, of the mosque, they again fall back into their sinful activities. This is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj. A devotee remains saintly, a devotee remains pure, a devotee does not contaminate his life with sinful activities because he is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. He is absorbed in trying to serve the Lord, in trying to glorify the Lord, in trying to hear the glories of the Lord. And by such activity, a devotee becomes protected from ignorance. Subhada, that's the next item from Lekshagni. Lekshagni, we come to Subhada. Subhada means auspicious, unauspiciousness. A person who is engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is to be understood to be doing the best service to the whole world and to be pleasing everyone in the world. In addition to human society, he is pleasing even the trees and animals because they also become attracted by such a movement. A practical example of this was shown by Lord Chaitanya when he was traveling through the forest of Jharkhand in central India for spreading his Sankirtan movement. The tigers, the elephants, the deer, and all the other wild animals joined him and were participating in their own ways by dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. So devotional service brings auspiciousness to every living entity. Even when we just perform Harinam on the street, the cockroaches, the insects, the trees, the animals, anyone who gets the opportunity to hear the sound vibration of the holy name, he benefits. That is how auspicious devotional service is. So Subhada means auspiciousness. Devotional service brings auspiciousness. What are the parameters for auspiciousness? They are on the slide. Does it benefit everyone? Does it attract everyone? Does it produce good qualities in everyone? Does it bestow superior happiness? These are the parameters for auspiciousness. If we say something is auspicious, we should ask these 4 questions. Does it benefit everyone? Does it attract everyone? Does it produce good qualities in everyone? And does it bestow superior happiness to everyone? So we can see that devotional service gives everyone all this. Devotional service benefits everyone. Devotional service attracted by everyone or attractive to everyone. Devotional service produces good qualities in everyone, even animals. When Lord Chaitanya was traveling through the forest of Jharkhand, he was singing the holy name, he was chanting the holy name loudly, and all the birds and animals and trees, they were all benefiting from his chanting, and they all joined in that chanting. So, devotional service is beneficial for everyone. Somebody like to read this?
Maharaj.
Okay. Yes.
Maharaj.
Yeah, I can read.
Okay. Developing godly qualities. My dear King, persons who have unflinching faith and are without any duplicity can develop all the good qualities of the demigods on account of a devotee's operational consciousness. Even the demigods like to live with him, and therefore he can be understood. It can be understood that the qualities of the demigods have developed within his body. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you. So, Shukadeva Goswami says, Yashasti Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchanaha Narvai Gunais Tatra Samasate Suraha Haro Abhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manora Tena Sati Davato Bahir. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the other hand, the person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy, Maya. How can there be any good qualities in such a person? So by devotional service, one develops transcendental qualities. The Lord is always transcendental. Harihi Nirguna Shakshat. Harihi Nirguna Shakshat. The Lord is always transcendental. Prakrite Purusha Paraha. The Lord is always situated on his supreme platform. Purusha Paraha. He is always a supreme person. He is always in a superior position. The Lord is never influenced by his material energy. We, the living entities, we are controlled by the material energy, but the Lord is never controlled by the material energy. So therefore, if one renders service to Krishna and one is engaged in devotional service, one develops the same spiritual qualities like the Lord. Tamba jam nirguna bhavet. One who worships the transcendental form of the Lord, one who renders service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, automatically he develops the qualities of the Lord. And that is why Krishna is saying, Man mana bhavama bhakto mam yajimam namaskuru. Man mana, think of me. Man bhava, become my devotee. Man namaskuru, offer obeisances unto me. Mam yaji, worship me. So by doing this, we inherit the qualities of the Lord. So devotional service is an opportunity for every one of us to develop transcendental qualities and return to the spiritual sky. Somebody likes to read this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, I would like to read.
Go ahead.
Okay. A person who cannot go beyond sphere remains impure. A person who is not in Krishna consciousness has no good qualities. He may be highly educated from the academic point of view, but in the actual field of his activities, he can be seen to be baser than the animals. Even though a person is highly educated academically, if he cannot go beyond the sphere of mental activities, then he is sure to perform only material activities and thus remain impure. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Thank you. So, without devotional service, we remain impure. The Lord is without material qualities. And anyone who engages in the service of the Lord also develops those transcendental qualities. So if one is not engaged in the service of the Supreme, no matter his material qualifications, he might have a PhD, he might have the best situation in the world, but so long as he's not connected to the Supreme Personality of God in devotional service, he remains impure. Purity will only come when we are connected to the Supreme Pure, and the Supreme Pure is Krishna. So devotional service gives us the opportunity to connect with the Supreme Pure, which is Krishna. So therefore, a devotee is always in a better position than even the greatest, most successful karmis, because the karmis, by their activities, they remain impure. But a humble devotee who is rendering service to Krishna, who is hearing Krishna's pastimes, who is chanting Krishna's glories, who is offering everything to Krishna, he is freed from karma, he is free from reactions, he becomes pure. So devotional service is an opportunity for a living entity to become pure. Devotional service is truly all auspicious. Only devotional service is all attractive or beneficial, can develop saintly character, and can bestow superior happiness. Therefore, only devotional service is truly all auspicious. So there is nothing superior to devotional service, because by engaging in devotional service, one can experience superior happiness due to the all auspicious nature of devotional service. The third characteristic is called moksha laguta krita, which derives happiness of liberation. In the Tantra Shastra, Lord Shiva speaks to his wife, Sati, in this way. He said, "My dear wife, a person who has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Govinda and who has thus developed pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can be very easily awarded all the perfections desired by the impersonalists. And beyond this, he can enjoy the happiness achieved by the pure devotees." So Lord Shiva is glorifying the power of devotional service, is glorifying devotional service. The persons who are surrendered to the lotus feet of Govinda, they can develop pure Krishna consciousness, and they are awarded all the perfections desired by impersonalists. So devotional service is superior to all forms of spiritual practices, because by devotional service, one comes in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are three types of happiness. Srila Rupa Goswami has divided happiness into 3 categories. First, Jada Ananda. Jada Ananda means material happiness. Happiness derived from material atmosphere. Happiness derived from the interaction of the senses, of the mind, of the intelligence. These are described as Jada Ananda. And that is a common happiness everyone is pursuing in this world. All of our sense activities, sense enjoyment, it culminates in this Jada Ananda, rubbing the senses against their objects to produce some temporary happiness, some flickering happiness. The second type of happiness is called Brahma Ananda. Brahma Ananda means happiness derived from identifying oneself with the Supreme Brahman, the effulgence of the Lord. The effulgence of the Lord is called the Brahman Jyoti. And so the mental speculators, the Gyanis, they want to merge with that Brahman Jyoti because they get some little happiness from it, which is called Brahmananda. But superior to Brahmananda, there is Premananda. Prema Ananda means happiness derived from pure Krishna consciousness. So Prema Ananda is superior, far, far superior. In fact, the scripture says, the scripture compares Brahmananda to Premananda. It says the pleasure that one gets when one is experiencing Brahmananda is compared to the water contained in a hoof print of a calf. You know, a baby cow has a very small foot. And so when a cow steps on the mud, it creates a footprint. It creates some hole on the ground. That is called a footprint. So that footprint, if you put water into that footprint, that is the happiness derived from Brahmananda. And Premananda is the ocean. So if you compare the hoof print of a calf, water containing that hoof print of a calf, to the ocean, there is no comparison. You can't compare. How many times are you going to measure this hoof print as compared to the ocean? But that is the joy, the happiness one gets by merging into the Brahman effulgence of the Lord as compared to devotional service, pure devotional service. It's a vast difference. So therefore, the devotees who are engaging in pure devotional service, they're in a better position than the Gyanis and the Mayavadis. Happiness derived from devotional service is eternal. Happiness derived from pure devotional service is the highest because it is eternal. The happiness derived from material perfection or understanding oneself to be Brahman is inferior because it's temporary. There is no preventing one's falling down from material happiness, and there is even every chance of falling down from the spiritual happiness derived out of identifying oneself with the impersonal Brahman. So the impersonal Brahman is not permanent, neither is material happiness permanent. So one who is relishing pleasure from the Brahman Jyoti, he will fall down because he cannot remain there for long. He will fall down. And one who is engaged in materialistic activities, deriving some material pleasure, is temporary also. After some time, he will lose that opportunity, he will fall down. So happiness derived from Brahman Jyoti or from the material interactions, Jadanananda, they are temporary because one will fall down at some point and he will lose the opportunity to experience the joy that he's experiencing. But when one engages in pure devotional service, when one is linked to Krishna in pure devotional service, there is no question of fall down. One's happiness keep increasing and increasing. Charito dharpanam ajanam, ananda buddhi vardhanam, ananda buddhi vardhanam. Krishna consciousness is always increasing and increasing and increasing. I want to end with 2 more slides. It's 9 o'clock. Prahlad Maharaj prays to Lord Nrsimhadev, my dear Lord, I repeatedly pray unto your lotus feet that I may simply be stronger in devotional service. I simply pray that my Krishna consciousness may be more strong and steady, because happiness derived out of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all the other perfections of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of liberation from material existence. In other words, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, I don't want to pursue this path. I just want to pursue my Krishna consciousness, because if one has Krishna consciousness, then all of these things are automatically available. Just like if you have 1,000 naira or 100 CD, automatically you have 500 naira, you have 200 naira, you have 10 naira, or you have 200 CD, you automatically have 100 CD, you have 50 CD, you have 10 CD, you have 1 CD inside. So devotional service covers everything else. Once you have devotional service, you have everything else. But if you just pursue one of these items, economic development or religiousness or sense gratification, it's only one. But if you perform devotional service to Krishna and please Krishna, then all of these things are automatically awarded. So devotional service is superior to any time of activities. To do labha, difficult to achieve. Lord Shiva says to Sati, my dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher, analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement. By performance of the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy the material comforts of life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries for it by such process for many, many thousands of births. So Lord Shiva is preaching to his wife, Sati, that my dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher, analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement. By performance of ritualistic sacrifice recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy material comforts of life to the fullest. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord. So devotional service to the Lord is rare, is difficult to achieve. In fact, it is said that devotional service controls the Lord. Devotional service purchases Krishna. If one becomes a pure devotee, Krishna becomes subservient. Krishna becomes an obedient servant, like we see in the case of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. Nanda Maharaj used to send Krishna, Krishna, go and bring me my shoes, my wooden shoes. And Krishna will go and struggle to carry the shoes of Nanda Maharaj for him. Krishna was afraid of Yashoda Mai. Yashoda Mai will pick up a cane when Krishna is misbehaving, and Krishna will run for his life. Sometimes Yashoda will bind Krishna with rope, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, bound up by the mother. How is that possible? Because of the love that these devotees they have for Krishna. Krishna becomes subservient. Krishna takes a inferior position. So Prabhupada says, which is better? To merge into the Supreme Lord and be equal to him, or to become the master of the Lord? Obviously, if you become a devotee, Krishna accepts you as his master. You become Krishna's worshipable deity. Krishna worships devotees. But if you merge with Krishna, there's nothing to gain. So it is better to be a devotee of Krishna, whereby Krishna becomes subservient. Krishna takes a lower position than his devotee. Krishna serves his devotee. That is even better than merging with the Supreme. Getting the blessings of one completely free from contamination. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj that merely by personal efforts or by the instructions of higher authorities, one cannot attain the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who is completely freed from the contamination of material desires. So this is this is very important. It says, to progress in Krishna consciousness, 3 things are needed: Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Kripa, and Bhakti Swabhava. We need devotee association. Without serving the devotees, we cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. So here it is said, one cannot attain to pure devotional service without the dust, without being blessed by the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee. So when we serve the pure devotee, when we hear them, when we associate with them, then automatically the dust from their lotus feet will be extended to us. Then from the pure devotee, by serving the pure devotee, Krishna becomes happy and Krishna extends his mercy, Krishna Kripa, to us. And when Krishna extends his mercy to the living entity, then Bhakti Swabhava, the very nature of Bhakti, becomes available. Bhakti becomes subservient to such a devotee. That devotee who has received the mercy of the devotees, that practitioner who has received the mercy of the pure devotees, he automatically received the mercy of Krishna, and then he received the mercy of Bhakti Devi. And such a person, he makes unlimited spiritual progress. This is the last reasons why pure devotional service is difficult to achieve. There are 2 reasons why pure devotional service is extremely difficult to achieve. 1, we cannot attain it by our own efforts. 2, Lord Krishna is reluctant to give it. Why? Because when Krishna gives you pure devotional service, he gives his whole personality to such a devotee. He becomes a servant of his devotee. So therefore, Krishna does not easily give pure devotional service to a living entity. By giving pure devotional service to a living entity, Krishna becomes subservient to the living entity. And of course, we cannot even attain it by our own efforts. We can only attain it by the mercy of superior Vaishnavas. So therefore, rendering service to superior Vaishnavas, hearing superior Vaishnavas, associating with superior Vaishnavas, this is the path, this is the way by which we can attain pure devotional service. And on this note, time is already gone, 10 minutes above time. So if there are any questions, they are welcome. If there are no questions, we would end here, and then next week we continue.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
There was a question I wanted to ask some time ago.
Okay.
That concerns the blissful nature of devotional service.
Okay.
Yes. You said that devotional service is blissful, and you even quoted chapter 9, verse 2.
Yeah.
And I also experience it. It is really blissful. But right. Yes, but what can we tell about austerities? Even when you have to sit down in a temple, we sit in a certain position that gives pains to our backs and okay, not only our backs, but it is a difficult position. Okay. Yes, what can we say about this in terms of the blissful nature of a devotional service?
Well, as we grow older, the body can no more take certain sitting postures, certain austerities. That is for sure. So you can always sit on a chair if sitting in lotus form is inconvenient or gives you pain. For instance, if you are going to do japa and you have to sit in a lotus form and you are feeling so much pain, it's going to distract your mind from concentrating on the sound vibration of the holy name. Therefore, the acharyas say you should sit in the position which is most comfortable, and that will allow you to concentrate, to go deeper and deeper into the holy names. So therefore, if one is having trouble sitting in a lotus form, one can always use a chair, use a cushion, use something higher to support himself so you can feel comfortable to chant the holy names. That's why it is said there are no hard and fast rules. It doesn't necessarily mean that we must sit in a lotus form to chant Hare Krishna. No, you can walk and chant. You can stand and chant. You can sit on a chair and chant. You can sit on a cushion and chant. You can sit on the mat and chant. The only thing we don't encourage is to lie down and chant. If you lie down and chant, you sleep. And you will not practice your sadhana for long. Sleep will take over you. So maybe you can stand, you can sit, you can walk, you can do any of these things and chant. So austerities are necessary, yes. Austerity, Krishna, when Brahma appeared in this universe, he was the first living entity. The universe at that time, there was no sun. Everywhere was dark. Brahma was frightened by the darkness. He was trying to find out his source. He could not find. So Krishna gave him an indication with the sound tapa. So because Brahma intelligence is very deep, Brahma has a great intelligence. So when he heard the word tapa, he understood that if I don't perform austerities, I cannot see my source. I cannot understand my source. So immediately Brahma engaged in devotional activity, devotional austerities. And after thousands of years, the Lord appeared before him. The Lord revealed himself in the core of the heart of Brahma. And then the Lord taught Brahma the Vedic knowledge. So austerities are necessary. We cannot avoid austerity. But Srila Prabhupada says in Kali Yuga, giving up illicit sex, giving up meat eating, giving up gambling, and giving up intoxication. These are the greatest austerities in Kali Yuga. People cannot think of giving up these things. People cannot give up illicit sex. People cannot give up drinking. People cannot give up meat eating. People cannot give up gambling. So, but the devotees, because of the mercy of other Vaishnavas, because of the mercy of Krishna, were able to follow these things. They are the greatest austerities that we are performing. So if one is able to observe these four principles without fall down, he's the greatest yogi, he's the greatest tapaswi. And so austerities are recognized by the Lord and they help the living entity to make progress. So we can take some more austerities on Ekadashi when we choose not to eat at all for the whole day, or we eat once a day in the afternoon. These are additional austerities. And during the month of Kartik, we also minimize our eating. So this way, we can increase our austerity. But one should not perform such austerities that he cannot practice Krishna consciousness. Some devotees, sometimes they undertake such severe austerities that it inconveniences them and they cannot even chant. That austerity is in a mode of ignorance. Austerity has to be performed in a mode of goodness. Then that austerity becomes useful. So austerities are welcome. Krishna loves his devotees to perform austerities, but those austerities must be done in such a way that it enhances our spiritual life. It should not disturb our spiritual life. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So in the absence of any other question, we would call the class to a close, and we hope to see everyone next Saturday. Of course, Saturday is...
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Jai.
very much for the beautiful lecture.
You're welcome. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasanubhya ivacha paritanapavnibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Next Saturday, Hare Krishna.